Hello, you're listening to a Heroes Welcome episode 5. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Wes, and with me to talk everything Overwatch, Andrew. How are you, sir?
I'm ready for this game to release. I cannot wait. Less than 24 hours away. Get ready. It's time.
Is this the real life? Is it coming out?
It seems like a dream, but soon enough, it will be here.
Alright, so you push play, you get in your very first game. What character are you going to pick?
First game, it's probably going to have to be Genji for me. I've had a lot of fun playing him in the past, so it's probably going to be Genji for me. What's it looking like for you? What's your first game?
It's going to be McCree, you know it.
High noon, ladies and gentlemen. Gotta love it.
Right, so unlike previous launches, Blizzard decided to do a global release on the 24th.
Right, so it's going to be a global release. It is going to be on the 24th of May, and so for some of us here on the West Coast, it's going to be the May 23rd at around 4 p.m. PDT is when it's releasing for us.
Right, so in North America, we get on the 23rd. In some parts of the world, it's the 24th. That's kind of the way it works.
Right. So, like I said, it's all depending on your location. So you can kind of check that out. They have it listed on Blizzard's website.
Right, and they had a little event. There's life-size figurines.
I know. We were really interested to see. They had a kind of a little teaser going on Twitter and some other places of these 3 locations the day before, but we weren't quite sure what was going to be happening. It was kind of this huge thing they were kind of setting up, and then all of a sudden these life-size figurines just start popping up all over the place.
Right, they were way bigger than life-size from the looks of it. Yeah, that was on May 20th on Friday.
Right, so Friday is when they were popping up all over the place. So we had 3 different characters. We had Tracer, Genji, and Pharah popping up in the world.
Right, and to be fair, I thought it was going to be like a big announcement.
Right, it was kind of this whole thing.
Well, I mean, it was super cool, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's super cool, but it was a little weird because we were, speculating all over the board on what it might mean and stuff like that. So it's kind of, it was definitely unexpected, that's for sure. They did something kind of cool and neat, so.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. Also in the news, we learned that the Battle.net tag, there's some changes.
Yeah, there's been speculation in the past about them allowing us to be able to freely just change your Battle.net. So that's not, it's not going to be free change, whenever you want, but it's going to be, they're basically resetting your one time only to change your Battle.net tag.
Right, so let's talk about Battle.net. So the Battle.net is consistent amongst all the games. So if you played World of Warcraft or Diablo in the past, you have the one name, and the way it's been working is you had one chance to change it, and that was it, just one.
Right, so it's just one time to change it. I know I changed mine once. I believe you changed yours. It's one of those things where as you're growing and as things are changing, you're playing different games, you change your name. And so I know I've been kind of with my same one for a while now, although it wasn't really the one I wanted to end up with. So, it's kind of cool to see that they're going to be able to give us a chance to change it. I know there's probably a lot of people who have been locked into that same tag for quite a while and have been wanting to change it. So it's a pretty big deal with Overwatch, being that your actual name in the game is going to be your battle tag. So you're not able to select
because when you're younger, you're Shadow Slayer 69, and now you could update that to Shadow Slayer 420. You could,
420, yeah, right. Then there's no scope or any of that, but not in this game anyway.
Right, so pretty much what happened is they reset the cooldown, if you would, on that name change, so everybody has another name change.
Right, so I'm holding on to mine until I can think of a nice name, but I am definitely glad that they did this, so it's going to be cool to see. A lot of people are going to be changing their names, I'm sure. So.
Right, and they also came out and said that they're looking into possibly making changes in the future with their naming policy, because it's kind of pretty strict, right? Just like one name change,
one time change ever. Only. Yeah, you got to be very, very careful with what you're going with. So,
but they're open to maybe making changes in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna see changes to that. Especially being the way, like we said with this game, that your tag is your name in the game, so it's really important to people. So they're definitely, I'm sure, going to be making changes to that.
Yeah, and also to note, they had a new website design.
Right, so if you haven't been on the Play Overwatch website, it is completely been redone. It looks way better than it did. It's way easier to navigate. Looks much better. So
yeah, the old one was out of date. It still had Bastion shields and stuff, and
yeah,
now it's modern. There's a little code you can put in the website.
Yeah,
little secret code, yes. Up, down, left, right, BA.
It was interesting for sure. I love Hanzo myself, so you check that out.
Yeah, it's a cool little tidbit there. So let's talk about the animated short Dragon. So this came out right after we recorded the last show.
Oh my goodness. All right, so if you have not already seen the Dragons animated short, you need to do that. Definitely. It was by far, in my opinion, and I know in a lot of people's opinion, the best animated short. Amazing. So we got to learn a little bit more about the brothers, and just amazing artwork. Top notch. Check it out, definitely.
Yep, definitely really good. Hanzo Genji.
That's all I have to say. Just Hanzo Genji.
Right, and there's a digital comic, issue number 5.
Right, so number 5 came out. It was based on Farah. It's called Mission Statement. Comic.play Overwatch. You can check that out. We have it in the links as well. It was pretty interesting. I'm not crazy about Farah, but the comic was very interesting to me. So, what did you think about the comic?
It was good, and I believe we get one more, if I'm not mistaken, a Torbjorn, one more comic coming out soon.
I believe so, yes. So one more comic should be about Torbjorn. That's going to be interesting to see. It'll be interesting thing. So we don't know what's going to happen with that, but Torbjorn's a fun character. It should be pretty cool. So.
Right, and today of this recording, we saw Hero.
Yes, the animated short Hero. So my boy Soldier 76, got his little fun in the sun kind of animated short. If you have a chance, check that out. I was really pleasantly surprised.
What
with
happened
that.
to Genji? I thought he was your boy.
Yeah, I like Genji, but Soldier is he's my original friend.
Oh, your first love.
My first love,
okay.
so to speak. So I'm having a lot of fun with Genji, but I think a lot of people didn't really like Soldier in the beginning. I guess they didn't really. I mean, he's kind of a generic soldier character. A lot of people looked at him as. So if you get a chance, check it out. It'll kind of shed some light on.
It made me
Soldier.
like him better.
Yeah, I think hopefully that's what it will be for most people. So it'd be interesting to see what people think about it. But I had a lot of fun watching it.
So overall, the animated shorts and the comics doing the storytelling, you think that was pretty successful?
I think it was very successful, and I think it was an awesome job by the team. I mean, it's one of those things where it's not really been done before that I've seen too well, and they did a really good job with it. So especially, the comics are great, but I love the animated shorts. They're really, really awesome.
I'm going on a whim here. Crazy speculation,
yeah.
But I think the narrator, the female, the mom of the child, might be Sombra, which might have the daughter of Reaper.
Right, so what you're talking about is I'm
going way off a limb, though.
You're talking about the new animated short Hero.
High speculation.
So check it out. They have the narrator. You don't really see the narrator in the story, so, it's total speculation, but who knows? We'll see what happens.
I think 76 was protecting her.
Well,
he knew where they lived.
He kind of came out of nowhere,
Come on.
followed her back, kind of thing, so.
Maybe I'm reading way too much into it, though.
Blizzard. They love playing on stuff like that.
Yeah, and they're beating up the Omni guy. What's up with that?
Yeah,
it's almost like he had feelings. He almost convinced me he actually felt pain, the little robot.
Right.
It was almost sad.
It's almost sad,
But he just bolts, like the gangster said.
Yeah, and he had to be a generic Omni. It couldn't be like a Bastion, because then we would have
gangsters don't get much smarter in the future. They put themselves like these glow-in-the-dark face paint. It's not very good for fighting in the dark areas.
Right, they couldn't have made it any easier on Soldier if they painted a little cursor right on their forehead,
Yeah, we could talk all day about the anime shorts. Let's talk about the competitive scene a little bit. Obviously, the game is not playable this week.
Right. Much to my dismay, I'm not able to play any Overwatch right now, but we cannot wait for it.
We have some things to talk about, though.
We have a lot to talk about.
All right, so let's talk about Reunited.
So, Reunited just announced pretty quickly here that they are going to become their own player-owned organization. If you've heard of Astralis in the past, it's probably the only other one that's really popular out there that is in that same kind of setup, the player-owned organization. So a little background on Reunited. They originally started out playing in Overwatch. They started as under the team Fnatic. They did really good right off the bat. They were always one of the top teams playing, so they quickly left Fnatic and became Reunittedgg. So, and just recently, they just announced they're going with a player-owned organization, and a little bit on how that works is basically on a typical situation of the team, you have a team under an organization, and the players are under basically a contract. They play,
like
they're contractual employees. The way it's going to work as a player-owned organization, what Reunited is going to be doing is each player has an actual share in the company. So they're a partner of the company. They have their own say in what's going to happen. So they have a lot more freedom and a lot more control over what's going to be happening with their company and where they're going to take things. So, I mean, we can speculate all day on what that means for the company, how it's going to translate to their playing. I think it's awesome to see just different formats and organizations, the way that they're doing it. And I think anybody who owns a share of their company is obviously going to be heavily motivated to do well for the company. I mean, it's their company. They want to shine and they want to do the best they can. So it's going to be interesting to see what they'll do with that. But
I mean, I like to see everyone testing all aspects of the game. So even teams and how they're organized, I think right now is the best time to be trying what works best. Same thing with tournaments. Let's try different formats. Let's try best of 5s, best of 9s. Let's try payloads. Let's try some sort of point formats, and let's try whatever Blizzard's cooking up and whatever they're going to bring to us in the future. Let's try it all. Right now is the best time to do this experimenting.
Right. So, I mean, there's no reason why we can't try different things, and who knows, it could be a crazy failure. It could end up being amazing. But, I mean, it's just awesome to see players taking things in their own hands and kind of doing something different. So, be interesting to see how that works out. I'm really happy for them. I know a lot of them talked about being happy that they own a stake in their company. So congratulations to them. Hope they do well with it. So
right, and the experimentation, I think, could only mean, we all learn.
It's only going to be better for us in the long run. So congratulations to them again. So so you wanted to talk about the TSM Team Solo Mid.
Right. So on Heroes Welcome, we always like to motivate and inspire our listeners, who play at high levels. Take that leap. You don't have to quit your day job. Get out there, put yourself out there. But TSM, you might have heard of them, Team Solo Mid. They're kind of a big deal in some other games. But they came out and announced that they are accepting applications for individual players and teams.
Right. So, I mean, like you said, there's no real loss to try things out. I mean, it doesn't mean your whole world has to change. You have to line up everything to fit into this thing. But, just try it out. I mean, if you think that you're good enough to play with the top players in the game, there's nothing wrong with trying it out and seeing how it works. So definitely encourage anyone to join up and to try and be a part of this great organization we've got going on. So.
Right. So if you want to play, you just go on the website. It's really easy. But I mean, even if you don't want to apply, the big news is these large organizations, and they've come out and said, this is 2016. They want to represent TSM in 2016. This isn't like a far-fetched in the future maybe kind of thing.
Right. So they're planning to do this quickly here, and it's amazing to see all these new teams joining up. We're going to see a lot more as soon as the game releases and more into the future. So happy to see new people join in this realm of things.
Right. And the only other thing to mention really is an Overwatch All-Stars event. This is happening over in EU, Wednesday, May 25th in London.
Right. So we have a Overwatch All-Stars. It's going to be Team Sports versus the Team Entertainers. So it's going to be two different groups of people. We do have some kind of famous people going to be showing off in this tournament. It's going to be real cool to see. I mean, I'm always hyped to see new things going on in Overwatch and see what happens with it.
Yeah, it's not really esports competitive play, but it's just kind of...
It's a fun...
I believe they said there's like 9 different events, but, a couple of them are being broadcasted, and it's over in EU. We don't know if we get much EU listeners, but, I mean, it's probably a big deal over there. They got the footballers, they have YouTubers, comedians. I didn't recognize personally any of them, but...
I mean, it's just good to see that they're putting stuff together and they're doing stuff with the game. I mean, it's like you said, it's not really competitive, Overwatch, but I mean, it's just fun stuff. Just have some fun, get some people together, show off. I mean, it's awesome to see anything being done in this realm of this game and this sport.
And apparently, they're really competitive and they're playing in the beta and everything. So it's not just like, let's get famous people to play the game.
Right.
Like these are actually people who are interested.
Right. So, I mean, again, it's going to be fun to see what they do, see their take on, strategies and other things like that. So I'm all for it.
It'll probably be pretty fun. I mean, we have, Conan O'Brien over here in the States playing Overwatch.
Yeah.
Doing something.
So we'll enough said about Conan O'Brien. We'll see how that works out. But
right. So let's get into strategy. So today we're covering Reaper.
Yeah, so we're going to be covering Reaper. Last time we covered Winston, so today is all about that black hooded Reaper. So for those of you who don't know, we're going to kind of cover the basic of the character, go over their abilities and things, and then we're going to get a little bit into the strategy of the character. So First off, for those that don't play a lot of Reaper, he has a passive ability specific to him. It's called the Reaping. Basically, the way it works is when you get eliminations against enemies, they are going to drop a soul globe, and when Reaper picks up those soul globes, they heal him. They regen about 50 HP for him.
Right, and his primary fire is his Hellfire shotguns. There are 2 shotguns. He is the best, close range hero damage output in the game. Right,
he's really devastating in close range using those shotguns. He's, like I said, he's really great for, taking down tanks and other big characters with those Hellfire shotguns.
Right, so he has 8 ammo. Fire rate's about 2 rounds per second. I mean, the damage is heavily dependent on the range.
Right, the range, how close you are to the person, how your aim is, things like that. But it's typically, anywhere from 80 to 280 DPS. So, I mean, range is quite a bit. So, his shift ability, his mobility, his movement ability is his Wraith form. So you basically turn into a shadow. You're able to move through enemies. Typically, the way it works is you don't have collision with your friendlies, but you do have collision with the enemies. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But basically, it's a 3-second duration. You pop it, you turn into a shadow, and you're able to go through enemies and things like that, and able to move around. And it's an 8-second cooldown.
Right, so fighting in corridors, always having a way out, and you do move faster when you're Wraith forming as well.
Right.
So when you spawn, a lot of times you just Wraith form just to get to the point faster.
Right, you can definitely use it that way, and you can definitely use it to engage in the fight. You'll see a lot of people using it for his ultimate and things like that to get into the position. So definitely multifaceted, the way you can use the ability. Just be careful with how you use it. It's his really only his main mobility movement.
And it counters almost every ult in the game because you're immune to damage.
Yeah, if you pop it in time, it will make you immune to pretty much anything in the game. So,
all right, so let's talk about a Shadow Step. This is bound on E on the PC. It takes 2 seconds, 10-second cooldown. You're able to mark a destination, disappear, reappear, and it's got a pretty far range.
Yeah, so this is one of the things with the character. You just kind of have to learn the way it works. The setup is a little bit interesting at first. When you first come to it, it seems like it's a little slow. Like you said, it takes about 2 seconds to actually, disappear and reappear at the location. And just the way that you select your destination is something that is kind of a little bit different. You'll have to get used to it, especially when putting it up on ledges and that sort of thing. But it's definitely very useful, especially on Reaper in a lot of ways, to be able to get into certain locations. To drop down from above is a really favorite trick of a lot of people using Shadow Step. So definitely something that you can be aware of and look to use in different and unique ways for sure.
Right, because Shadow Step will get you into places where a lot of characters can't go, and because his strength is being able to flank people and close the gap, those 2 abilities work very well. You could Wraith form in and out, get those health packs, being aware. Any flanker, any character in general, but especially flankers, knowing where the health packs are, being able to just Wraith form, go full health, go right back into combat. I mean, combined with the Shadow Step, it takes 2 seconds, but it's kind of intended. You're going to be vulnerable for 2 seconds, but you're going to be able to position yourself, like I said, in places that some characters can't even go.
Right. So, it's definitely a really good put together kit. It's definitely very useful. You just kind of have to work at how you want to use it, but definitely could be used in some pretty damaging ways. So, his ultimate, his Q ability is Death Blossom. So, I'm sure everybody's seen it in a lot of the original animated release.
And play the games. A lot of play the games.
A lot of play games you'll see it in for sure. So it's basically, it's a 3-second duration. It does, about 200 damage per second, maximum of about 600 damage. That's about 40 per tick. But the way it works, basically, you activate your ultimate. He spins around in his crazy Reaper fashion, and he just starts unloading his bolted shotguns in every direction. It's 360 degrees. It is not just on a horizontal axis, but it actually does shoot above and below you. So a lot of people use it dropping down into the location and activating the ultimate in that way as well. So it does massive damage. It destroys anything in its area for sure. So it's definitely one of the devastating ultimates and very, very useful in team situations.
Right, so you are able to control Reaper when he ults. He does move slightly slower, and you are able to jump. And like you pointed out, the animation makes it look like it's just around him, but it's a 360 like spherical up above you and below you. It's damage all the way around you, and it's super strong to combo with like movement abilities. Like if you have Lucio, he sprints you while you're death blossoming. So wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, there's some amazing ways to use it. Definitely devastating if used correctly. You are vulnerable in it. You're not immune to damage, so one thing to keep in mind. I know a lot of people jumped right into Reaper, and they go straight for their their Dust Blossom as soon as they get it, and they get killed right away. So it's definitely one thing to keep in mind. You are vulnerable. If there's a sniper at range, there's other characters, other things that they can do to shut you down. A nice hook to the face ends it really quickly if you get caught. So just keep in mind, you are still vulnerable. For sure.
So let's talk a little bit more about Reaper. So his role is like a scout. He harasses, he ambushes. When I play Reaper, I mean, I was fortunate enough to play in the closed beta, so when open beta came around, I had an advantage. But I'll be completely honest, when I play Reaper, I felt like it was unfair for the enemy team.
Yeah, so if you really know how to play Reaper, you can be pretty devastating on him. Like I said, he is the best close range damage. So if you can close that gap, you can just wreck whole defensive and offensive lines. So he is a little bit of a straightforward character. I mean, there's not a lot of crazy strategy behind him, but the main thing is just positioning and flanking people and knowing where the enemy team is, knowing the map, and knowing how to get around using your Wraith Form and your Shadow Step.
Right, and because he's the best close range damage, and because he has 2 shotguns, he's very effective against tanks specifically. Double Winston's really popular, and a Reaper just tears through tanks. I mean, tanks generally have bigger hitboxes, they're bigger characters, and they just absorb all of his bullets.
Yeah, and I think it catches a lot of people by surprise, especially their first few times dealing with Reaper. Is they expect, being a tank, they expect the damage coming in, and they see, damage from a Tracer or damage from other characters, but then they get hit with a Reaper, and it really catches them off guard, the amount of sheer damage that he does to tanks and such. So.
Right, so I mean, if you're playing Winston, or you're Roadhog, or even Reinhardt, you can't stand toe-to-toe with the Reaper.
You got to be very careful.
2 to 3 shots aimed at the head.
Yeah, that
doesn't matter how much health you have.
Yeah, that's done deal for you. So you definitely have to be very careful when going against the Reaper. There are things that you can do, especially even being a tank. I mean, you can fight with Reapers. It's just you have to be very smart about the way that you do it. So if you're a tank using your defensive abilities, if you're using a Winston, you use your shield, you make sure you play around that, and you can't, I mean, again, you just can't stay in there for long. You have to get out. So
right, so strengths in general, every tank, the healers are pretty weak to him as well, like Zenyatta.
Yeah, I mean, Mercy. Close range, he mops up anybody. I mean,
right. So let's talk about who's he weak against, who counters him.
I mean, if you're playing Roadhog and you're really good with the hook, you can counter him pretty good, but as far as other characters, I mean, snipers are really good against him. He doesn't really, can't always see the sniper. So if you can get him when he's not able to close that distance, you can kill him with the sniper. There are several ways that you can deal with a Reaper. It's just, you really can't be at close range. It's the hardest thing to do is get out of his close range.
I think if I had to pick the hardest counter, I'd probably say McCree. They're both very good damage, but McCree's stun gives him that advantage.
Yeah, definitely the stun. I mean, McCree's really good against anybody using that flashbang. So if you land the flashbang, you stand a really good chance against the Reaper. So, I mean, there are definitely counters to it, but again, if you miss that flashbang, you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah, so we also mentioned a little earlier about the collision. So in Overwatch in general, you don't have a collision with your friendlies, but you do have collision with enemies. But when you do Wraith Form with Reaper, you actually are able to pass through enemies, which is unique.
Right. It's unique. It gives them the ability to pass through enemies. So, I mean, it's really good for getting away or getting into position using it. And no one's going to be able to stop you in Wraith Form. The thing you do have to keep in mind, though, is you move slightly faster in Wraith Form, but that doesn't mean you're faster or more mobile than, say, a Tracer or a Genji. So you really do have to be careful that they don't follow you. If you're using it to get in position and you're moving into a position that's covered by basically the whole defensive team, you're really vulnerable because they know that in a short time you're going to come out of that Wraith form and you're going to be very vulnerable. So just keep that in mind. Definitely positioning is everything with Reaper.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, all characters it applies. It's just good to know that you don't have collision with your friendlies, but enemies you do. And another thing we could talk about is some next level strategy here. When Reaper reloads, as many people know, he just throws his guns on the floor and he pulls new ones out of his jacket. Now, those weapons stay on the ground for 5 seconds.
Right. So definitely keep in mind that whether you're going against Reaper or you are playing as Reaper, something to keep in mind that can definitely give away your position. If you're running through the map and you run across his shotguns on the ground, you know there's only a maximum of 5 seconds that they're going to be there, which means he was just there.
It might be a trap, though. Maybe that was intentional.
It could be. Could definitely be.
Another thing to point out is with the shadow step, this might change in the future. A lot of people have been talking about it, but there's a red like aura around Reaper, but a lot of people get confused that because even friendly Reapers have that red aura. So a lot of people, when they see a red aura, they assume that it's an enemy, like shields, you know. Then the blue usually represents a friendly.
Right.
But Reaper's always red.
It's always red for Reapers, so it's a little bit different. It confuses some people. I know I've talked about it in the past. I always just assume, I mean, if you don't know whether it's a friendly Reaper or not, it's probably safe to say it's not a friendly Reaper. But so there's an aura around Reaper himself, and when he uses his Shadow Step, there's actually an aura that appears at his destination right before he gets there. And then he does some cheesy little voice line when he lands in his location. So it definitely can give away your position if you're playing as Reaper. So definitely got to keep in mind that. We've seen some real fun videos of people shadow stepping into some very bad situations. So just be very careful with how you use.
Yeah, he has
shadow
really good damage, but I think a Bastion might beat him if you're shadow stepping right in front of him.
Yeah, right in front of the Bastion.
You have that in like the vulnerability stage right there.
yeah, especially if he's already unloading his clip and you just shadow step right into it. It's probably not a
right. So keep in mind, you're kind of vulnerable shadow step, but the idea is like the shadow step somewhere where you're out of line of sight.
Right.
And it does. He often does speak audibly out loud, so even if someone's not looking in that direction, they might hear you.
Right. So
and talking about his ultimate, we didn't mention that he's actually pretty vulnerable when he ultis, and a lot of people don't realize that because he does turn into a shadowy figure. But when you ultimate as Reaper, you are very vulnerable because your movement speed is reduced.
Right. So I mentioned slightly that he is vulnerable, and to keep that in mind. But as we've said, anybody who's outside of his range, who's not being damaged by his ultimate, has a pretty easy time of picking him off. I know I love playing as, Genjis or, Widowmakers and the sort, and just picking him off as soon as he unleashes his ultimate. It's not hard if you're outside of the range to pick him off. So,
and that's why some of the best ultimates some of the best, Death Blossoms you see are Reapers that position themselves probably with Shadow Step above the enemies, and they actually use their ulti as they're falling. And the reason why it's so effective is because you're this shadowy figure. Your hard model is removed, and you're kind of like the shadowy figure, but you're falling at the same time. So it's much harder to hit you.
Yeah, the visual is much more fluid, and so there's not a crazy outline defining the character and where it's located. So it can make it a lot harder to take that character out. So yeah, I've seen a lot of really cool drop-in ultimates with him. So definitely something to keep in mind that you can use using his ultimate. There are several different ways that I've seen people use it. A lot of times in conjunction with other ultimates is always a good way to use it. We've talked about using Winston Shield, Lucio's Sprint. We talked about
even
that.
just a Zarya shield on you to protect you, another 200 damage buffer.
Right, can really make the difference between you end up dying and wasting your ultimate on nothing, or taking out the entire team.
There's a couple of abilities of characters that can negate it completely, like a Diva,
right.
Matrix,
Diva
or
is super strong.
Genji can reflect it back at you.
I'm waiting for that.
There's like a May wall.
Watch out for that.
Yes, a lot of playing, especially flankers, is being patient. A lot of people see the one character run out of the spawn room or something, and they just chase them down. But a lot of the times, you have to be patient. You know that Mercy died just after that person, so you're going to wait patiently. They don't know you're there. Then here comes the Mercy, and that's a much more valuable pick. Flanking rather than, the tank that just rolled out before, right?
Right. So that's one thing to keep in mind in any situation when you are looking to make a really big play is patience is almost always rewarded. Now, of course, if time is running out, you kind of got to make a play or, not. But oftentimes the waiting a few seconds or whatever will actually result in a much better situation for you. So we've all seen plenty of players jump the gun, use their ultimate or use a major ability in a very poor situation, and then you're just wasting the ability. It doesn't help you. It's actually hurting you. So
right, and map awareness is important no matter what character you're playing. But if they have a Widowmaker and you heard her whisper something, which is her ultimate, that okay, I'm not going to be able to flank as effective because they could see me through the walls.
Right, so probably not the best time to use an ultimate during that situation. It's probably
just assume that they know where you're at.
Right. It's kind of a rule of thumb when you're going up against a sniper is you kind of got to assume that they have visual on you at most of the time. So again, just be very careful with the way you use your abilities. Like we said, Reaper is a pretty straightforward character. The main thing with him is just knowing how to use his abilities, when to move into position, when to move out of position, how to use his abilities, who you really want to pick off and who you kind of don't want to. He's just, again, the flanking with him is a really big deal. Learning the map is going to help you in so many ways with Reaper.
Right, so we hope you learned something about Reaper.
Yeah, I mean, the point of this is to really give you an overview over the character and hopefully to teach you a couple things that you might not have known to help you out, whether you're playing the character or playing against the character. So we hope you learned something about Reaper. Check us out next week on our strategy segment. We're going to be covering Mercy, so we're looking forward to that. Hope you guys have a great time getting in and playing the game. I know we are. We're looking forward to, we got a lot of stuff going on, all the tournaments and coverage that's going to be happening all this next week. So have fun with that. Thank you guys for listening.
Right, we'd love to hear your feedback. Our contact info will be below. You can email us at heroeswelcomepodcast@gmail.com or find us on Twitter @2moonstudios. That's going to do it for us. Have a good night.
See you guys next week.
Till next time.
Bye.